Let me just thank you all again for being here. My name is Maren Brennan. I work in admissions, and I'm so excited to be here today with our, talking about Digital+Media. And I'm going to pass it over to our incredible guests. Before I do that, I just a little housekeeping. I'm going to be in the background during this awesome presentation. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to go ahead and ask them. But if you could please do it in the Q&A chat box. So I'm going to try to drop some links into the regular chat box. I don't want your questions to get buried. So any questions you have in the Q&A chat box would be great. And then I'll reappear and we'll address your questions after the presentation. Thank you all so much. All right, take it away. Sean, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Greenlee. I'm a professor here at RISD. I'm the current department head for Digital+Media. I also am the faculty lead for the Studio for Research in Sound and Technology, which is tightly connected to the Digital+Media department. I'm also joined here by Stephen Cook. Stephen, do you want to say hi?
Hi, yes, I'm Stephen Cook. I'm the Senior Academic Technologist for Digital+Media, and I also teach a couple of classes in the program as well.
Great, thanks. I have a slideshow that I've put together, and I may ask Stephen to comment on things as I go here, but I'm going to start sharing my screen. As Maren said, you can please put questions in the chat, and we'll address questions at the end of the session here. Okay, so let me make sure I got my slideshow and my sharing going. So we'll start sharing first. And that should do it. And
Here we go.
okay,
Looks great.
good, thanks. All right, so RISD Digital+Media. A basic overview of the department. So the MFA in Digital+Media is a multidisciplinary graduate program that brings together art, technology, and media theory to support conceptually grounded, research-based creative practices. Students examine how historical and emerging technologies shape society, drawing from cultural studies, philosophy, social sciences, biology, and media archaeology. Areas of inquiry include human-computer interaction, simulation, communications infrastructure, environmental systems, technocultural histories, and computational arts. And working across diverse media that could be visual, sonic, or tactile, students develop projects that span expanded cinema, performance, projection mapping, robotics, kinetic sculpture, multimedia installation, interactive objects, art science collaborations, and immersive sonic experiences, each reflecting a distinctive approach to cross-disciplinary research and technological experimentation. And I'll just note that across the slides that I'm showing today, it's all Digital+Media student work that's being featured here, and their names are sort of in the lower, usually in the lower right-hand corner. But I've selected works mainly from the past few years, and some that are super current, including the one that you see here, which is Yitao Yuan from last year, graduated. So a little bit about the academic experience in Digital+Media. So each year we admit about 12 to 14 graduate students from diverse fields. And these can be backgrounds such as art, music, computing, mathematics, life sciences, and humanities. The average total student population is around 24 to 28 students in our program. And students work closely with faculty to shape their own artistic paths through seminar studios and elective courses. We have strong links to many departments at RISD, but most notably an undergraduate department that's newly formed called Computation Technology and Culture, or CTC, which has two new BFA programs at RISD. So these are undergrad programs, Art and Computation and Sound. And so we have a pool of electives that we offer, but we also, many of the Digital+Media students like to take their electives in this CTC and Sound area as well. In addition, students can take advantage of cross-registration opportunities at Brown University. And several departments there are ones that our students will take courses in, like the music department, literary arts, modern culture, media, and even computer science. I highly recommend checking out, we won't go through all the links that I have in my presentation here, but there's some featured stories on risd.edu. So if you go to risd.edu and you search for news, you can actually kind of look for digital media and see some of the articles about our courses. But here are just some of the titles, like grad students at RISD discover and invent and repurpose creative camouflage strategies. RISD Symposium explores generative AI's effects on the landscape of art and design. RISD students investigate the secret lives of fungi in a digital media studio. Spring Studio encourages RISD students to push the boundaries of traditional journalism, and so on. So I think like, just the titles of these articles give you a sense of what's going on in some of the courses. A little bit about our faculty in Digital+ Media. So our faculty bring a wide range of backgrounds from studio art, software and hard design, performance and scholarship to the teaching, research, and creative practice in the department. The collective expertise really spans a lot of areas like new media art, sound design, environmental and sustainability studies, digital activism, coding, decolonial practices, and other areas. And D+M faculty are very active in the world, exhibiting and performing internationally in galleries, museums, concert halls, clubs, presenting at conferences and festivals, creating environmental sculptures and site-specific installations, authoring software, and just generally pushing the possibilities of technology as an artistic medium. So this is pictured as a group of our faculty that are teaching this year in the department. So we usually have, let's see, that's 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like around 12 or 13 faculty that you might interact with during your time just within the department. And so this is the list of our current group. Adela Goldbard and Mariella Yerigi are the first two faculty listed. They are our core faculty in the department, currently teaching our studio seminar and thesis project courses. Stephen Cook, who is joining us today, is our senior academic technologist. He teaches some courses and is part of the kind of core group. You've got me as a department head, and then the other faculty listed, Rachel, Leah, Mattia, Mark, Alex, Tess, Griffin, Falix, Chloe, and Jerry are all part-time faculty. So they're typically teaching elective courses for the program. And as I mentioned earlier, we have really close affiliations with the CTC department and the sound faculty. In terms of like learning outcomes for this program, I think it's worth going through these. So graduates are prepared to develop a thorough understanding of a range of technologies, including their material capabilities and characteristics, appropriateness for specific strategic applications, relevance within larger systems, and impact on people and society. Demonstrate proficiency with a vocabulary of multiple material practices. Exhibit fluency in history, theory, and criticism with respect to art, technology, and new media practice. Organize teams and work collaboratively with people from a range of disciplines. Present work professionally through exhibitions, publications, and other relevant contexts. Communicate cogently about their ongoing studio art process. Demonstrate effective writing skills as part of or in the support of artistic practice, and contribute to the ongoing dialogue about research and new work in the field. So at the end of the 2-year experience in the Digital+Media MFA, these are the kind of outcomes we're hoping that all students leave with in terms of the learning that they've done. In terms of our facilities and equipment, this is a great highlight of this presentation. And Stephen, if I could ask you to speak, I'll just kind of go through the slides here and maybe you can say a few words as we kind of go. So the first up is what we have here is a layout of our 4th floor. Do you want to talk a little about the layout, Stephen?
Yeah, so from this map, it's kind of hard to see, but all of our spaces are kind of open and shared, and everything that we have is on most of what we have is on wheels. So our space is highly configurable, and every sort of inch of this space we've kind of designed for either for studio or for displaying or hanging or prototyping work. So we have like a ceiling grid system. We have ways for hanging projectors anywhere in the space, and then the individual studio spaces have a desk, tables. There we go. Yeah. So you can see the rail system. And so the configuration changes throughout the year. This is at the beginning of a semester where it's very tidy and organized. And then as we go through, things start expanding and getting a little bit messier and work gets set up.
Yeah. So this is maybe a couple weeks into the semester.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yep.
And here's the speed rail mounting that you were mentioning, Stephen, about
Yep.
like
So we can hang, monitors, projectors, speakers, or like large work can get hung from these space. This is our build space, which has 8-channel audio system, and then it also has a motion capture system. And there's 2 projectors in there that will do like full seamless projection across the back wall. Yep, there's a.
And then equipment checkout.
Yes, so our equipment checkout is probably the central sort of spot for DM. And it's not your typical media sort of resources checkout. There are things that, we have multiples of, like projectors, speakers, monitors, that kind of thing. But then we have a lot of like 1s and 2s of various equipment. And some of them are very, very random that we've used in classes and then have ended up into the checkout system. So there's things like we have a telescope, we have a underwater drone, we have a kayak. We have various sensors and cameras and a life ring. And what else do we have in there? Lenses, microscopes, telescopes, stands, backdrops.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
And then moving to the workshop.
Yes, the workshop. This is where I am right now. So in the workshop space, we have basic making equipments. We have drill press. We have things for doing like resins, for a vacuum for doing things with silicone molds. We have 3D printers. We have large scale 3D printers, soldering setup. Our own laser cutter. And this space is just for DM students. So there are other workshops on campus which you have access to. There's a wood shop in our building. There's a big print center and another center which has multiple laser cutters. But this space is just for D+M students. So it's really an extension of the studio. So students can like spend time in here working on projects without the demands of, other people needing to come in and use equipment. You see, that's our large format printer. And then this is our machine shop. So we have a 3-axis CNC mill, which is there. And then we have 2 CNC routers, one's for woods and one's for plastics, that we have in this space. So we're really, and those 2 CNCs are slightly odd dimensionally because they were built to fit that exact space. So we're really trying to use all the space that we have available to us in the workshop.
Cool. And then toward the front of the floor, we have what we call our seminar area. And this is where we have just general department meetings, visiting artist talks, anytime we need to gather around a table, right? But a lot of the course activity occurs actually in your studios. We also have a whisper room that's located. So this is a sound isolation booth. So also good for taking Zoom meetings and phone calls, but we have in here also an extensive like synthesizer setup and audio production suite. Also throughout the space, we have walls that we consider exhibition walls, right? That could be used for crits or special shows that are happening on the floor. Here's an example of one of our alums, Tess Oldfield, who actually teaches in the department now, with one of her robotic installations, robotic sound installations. And then we also have a whole wall full of screens as well, which don't have anything on them in this picture, but these are often showcasing the visiting artists that are coming through periodically. We also have like kind of some equipment stations. Do you want to say a few words about the kind of the things on wheels that move around?
Yeah, so this is like an example of a station that has multiple uses. So we have there's a robotic arm set up on there. So if people want to use this and mount things to the control arm and develop programs to move it around and do performances. And then we also have an embroidery machine and a sewing machine. We actually have 2 other machines that aren't pictured here because we just got them, that also are for textiles. Yeah.
Also software licenses. So we have several software licenses that are available to Digital Plus Media students. One way that you might get a software license is through a course that you're taking, for instance, like so certain courses, um, if they're not using like free or open source software, they might be using something like Max or Max MSP, which is pictured here. And so you may have a license for the duration of the semester for that course. But then digital media students tend to need software licenses for any number of studio work things that they're doing. So we do have a collection of that. We sort of consider that as part of the equipment checkout, right? These software licenses that you might be able to borrow for a semester or a year or maybe just need for a few weeks, right? Depending on what you're doing. And then here's the wood shop, Stephen
Yeah, so
mentioned.
this is available to all grad students, and it's open from like 9 a.m. through till about 10 p.m. every day. And there's student monitors that run it. And this is for, there's a lot of machines. There's planers and sanders and joiners and table saw, panel saws. There's a lathe at the back. And then there's workshop tables for doing setups, glue ups, an area for doing plaster work or concrete work. And then a small area in the back for doing some metal work as well.
Yeah. I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that I'm the faculty lead for something called the Studio for Research in Sound and Technology. This is a campus resource that is available to Digital Plus Media students and other programs as well. But Digital Plus Media students have 24/7 access to this space when classes aren't in session. So it's the main feature of the space is this 25 channel like speaker array that's arranged in a dome. So you can do very precise spatial audio, 3D audio design type of work in this room. Um, we also have a Surge modular synthesizer in this space. So this is what I always just call the analog computer. So this is one of our faculty, Alex Cakeley, pictured here, working on a patch. So this is another really like exciting piece of equipment that people can use that are in the program. We also recently acquired this technology. This is a 3D audio speaker that can be, it's kind of like a spatial audio PA system. It's got 20 sides, 20 speakers, and we can kind of take this around to different locations and kind of instantly transform like any space into like a spatial audio venue. This works on a technology called beamforming, which is basically bounces sound off ceilings and walls and floors to create the impression that you're actually surrounded by a lot of speakers. Um, and then we also have this really exciting research project that we're just kind of at the tail end of, which will probably just start a new cycle of new research, developing a custom in-house wave field synthesis system. So this is just basically just a different type of spatial audio, which requires like sometimes up to hundreds of audio channels. Here there's 3 rows of 16. And this is a project that Alex, who was pictured earlier, and Stephen actually have been leading on for the past few years, just developing this custom setup. So we'll be deploying this in classes and for student projects as soon as hopefully in the spring and certainly by next year. I'll just mention additional campus resources, which you can find out more about through RISD.edu, but these are all resources that Digital Plus Media students take great advantage of. The Nature Lab, the Fleet Library, the CoWorks research space, which is another kind of facility with a lot of digital fabrication equipment. The Center for Arts and Language, which is like a writing center, which is fantastic. The RISD Museum, and of course the RISD Career Center. So I want to talk a little bit about the curriculum for you all. So the main kind of course sequence is called Studio Seminar, and this helps guide graduate students to develop their art practices by exploring techniques in electronics, programming, physical computing, digital video, sonic arts. Student work often takes the shape of performances, installations, immersive media, screen-based works, and interactive sculptures. And students experiment, create work, and receive feedback through critiques and one-on-one meetings with faculty and visiting critics. The course includes lectures, workshops, readings, and discussions supported both first-year students in expanding their practice and second-year grad students as they prepare for their master's thesis and final exhibition. Basically, this sequence, along with a thesis project, is about 60% of your experience in the coursework at RISD and D+M. And it basically just contains individual meetings with faculty, group discussions, workshop series, a visiting artist lecture series with workshops and concerts, often studio visits with guest artists that are coming through, and group critiques. And then Stephen leads a workshop series, which is part of that first semester in the program. And so these are some examples of some of the workshops that take place. Stephen, do you want to talk a little bit about the workshops?
Yeah, these workshops, they're sort of the entry point into the like the checkout room, if you like, and the workshop. So, we do a lot of digital fabrication, we like touching on all the machines that we have here, as well as like individual stuff that we have in checkout. Like we go down to Tillinhouse Farm, which is a property that RISD owns. It's by the beach, and we fly drones and we do photogrammetry. We do some sort of audio recording that we then listen to in the ambisonic array over in another area. Yeah, we do a little bit of everything, and it changes. So this year's might be a little different to next year's, but it's always good fun.
Great, great, thanks. And then our visiting series is just visiting artist series is just a really key component of the experience in D+M. This is a list of artists in recent years that have come through. But as I mentioned, like one of the things that happens with the guest artists is they'll come in typically on Thursday. That's one of our core meeting days. They'll do a lecture in the mid-afternoon, and then throughout the day, there'll be individual studio visits with these guest artists. So we really feel like it's important in the program that you get exposure not only to our faculty, that we have here, but also to bring in guests so you get fresh perspectives throughout your time in the program. There are many important exhibition opportunities that are associated with the program. Um, the primary ones, though, are our D+M Biennial in the Saul Koffler Graduate Student Gallery, which is on the first floor of our building. And then we do an off-campus exhibition every 2 years. And then the thesis exhibition, which is also known as the grad show, which happens typically in the convention center in Providence. There are additional exhibition and curation opportunities in the DM department, Gelman Gallery, RIS Museum, and other spaces. I'll just highlight a little bit of some of the exhibitions that are recent. So this is an exhibition called Sensorama that happened at a local venue called The Works in Providence. So this is a completely like student organized event. So these two of these exhibitions, like the students, we have a team, curation team, they put it all together. They do all the legwork on figuring things out. There's an open call, so all the students are invited and able to participate in these. And then most recently, just this past October, November, we had our biennial exhibition here on campus. It was called In Media Res. And I'm just going to show you a few images from this. Um, and so this is a work by Vida Barba Zamora. Actually has a sonic component. This is by Salma Mohammed. Also has a sonic component. So it's not captured here, actually. There's a lot of these actually have multimedia aspect that photography doesn't always capture. Nicholas Franco, um, Roxy Lee, Tara Wang. This is more of a gallery view, some darkened areas for projection. Here we have another gallery view, work by Alex Cisterna and Yuval Gurjalan. Yoyun Sheng, Yuyin Liu, Annie Hu, Sam Tin Chi. And so one of the exhibitions I mentioned is also related to our thesis project. So in the final year of the 2-year MFA program, D+M students complete a thesis project, which is really a culmination of their academic and creative work at RISD. So each student has a thesis committee that's comprised of a thesis chair, which is a core D+M faculty member, a thesis advisor that can be a faculty from anywhere in the college, and a guest critic, which could be somebody from the college, but also even an external guest. And all graduates take part in the grad show and publish a thesis book that explores their work and their ideas on technology and society. So here's some recent shots from the thesis exhibition to give you an idea. This is Yatao Yuan, who we actually had a picture of earlier, a robotic installation. Jerry Vargas, another kinetic robotic installation. Ada Wu, piece that had a performance component. So this is sort of like the artifact of the performance. It actually generates like a kind of a feedback sound embedded in these metal beams are sound transducers. Crystal Ren, another sculptural sound installation. And Sung Ho Jeon and Hui Chun Yang. Another example of sort of a piece that kind of explores the continuum between performance and installation. This is a multi-channel audio work. And Yingwen Lin, another robotic kinetic installation sculpture. Again, we don't have time to go through all the links that I have in this presentation. I think we may have a way to share this presentation out to you all to make it available so that you could follow these links. But we do have documentation of grad shows going back several years, and as well as a PDF collection in the library of thesis books if you want to kind of get an idea of some of the more of the work that's come out of the program. Let's see. So another core experience requirement in the program is these two seminars that happen in the first year. One is called Media Perspectives, a History of Media Art. The other is called Critical Theory, Artistic Research and Context. Both of these seminars just really kind of help everybody get grounded in the field, which is a multidisciplinary field in many ways. Um, but these are really kind of important seminars for getting ready for the second year when you're going to actually be doing some writing on your own. So this is kind of these are kind of exploratory seminars to learn more about the theory, history, um, and so on. And then another part of the experience is taking electives. So we have two electives that are required for all D+M offerings. So you can select from a list of different electives. These are these current ones that we've been offering this year. This shifts from year to year based on different faculty we bring in, different themes that come up in the field. So for instance, we have ambient interfaces, activated objects, which is like a physical computing course, art and artificial intelligence, camouflage as practice, critical e-textiles, immersive spaces, painterly digital images, sonic practices, and the Synthesis Studio. And then you have a chance to take open electives really from anywhere in the college. These could also be within Digital+Media, but we also encourage you to get out of the department and try classes in other areas. So 5 open electives can be chosen from across the college. And this would also include cross-registration opportunities at Brown University. And there's also the opportunity to do internships and independent study projects. So just to give you kind of like a quick overview of how this kind of breaks down over 2 years, that studio seminar series is 3 courses, but it's 27 credits. So at RISD, we kind of measure workload in these 3 credit intervals. So you can really see that like, 27 credits, that's a majority of what you're going to be doing in the program. Then we have 2 courses for the survey theory courses, and then 1 big thesis project. And then for electives, at least 2 that are taken within the Digital+Media department, and then 5 that can be taken from anywhere in the college. So altogether, over 2 years, that's 66 total credits worth in 13 courses. This is just sort of a little pie chart breakdown of how it all kind of comes together. But just kind of seeing these categories in a slightly different way. And then this is just sort of a table that basically repeats information that you actually can find on the Digital+Media page on the RISD.edu website. So I won't spend too much time on these slides, but it kind of just gives you a breakdown of what each semester is like. The thing that I will note here, though, is that we'd have a 5-week winter session between fall and spring, and that's when you can take one course. So it's nice to have that opportunity to take that one course and not have to worry about like 2 or 3 other courses at the same time. This is just the second year example. But I'll jump kind of to the schedule a little bit. So this is kind of our what we're often looking at here at RISD is our sort of like entire year kind of breakdown here. I'll just note here that we start the semester right after the Labor Day holiday in the United States, so early September, and we go till the end of May. Um, a typical weekly schedule looks something like this for the year one fall. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, these are your core days that you're kind of you must be in the department for the core coursework. And then Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays tend to be those days that are a little bit more flexible. You'll probably be taking an elective on one of those days, and the other time is like time that you would be in the studio, just working on your work and taking advantage of the resources. So you can see moving to the spring semester of year one, it's very similar. Again, Tuesdays and Thursdays are your core days, and an elective might be in another time slot. We jump to year two in the fall. Now you actually have a chance to kind of take 2 electives in a semester, plus that Tuesday and Thursday requirement in the department. And then moving to your last semester, spring, again, it's pretty much the Tuesday, Thursday again, and you're on to your thesis project with one more elective choice. There are expanded learning and support opportunities available to all RISD graduate students. Um, so students can assist with faculty research and teaching, take on technical roles, gain exhibition experience through RISD's galleries and local community spaces. Second year graduate students can actually apply to teach their own course during winter session. And there are funding opportunities like Graduate Studies Grant and the Maharam STEAM Fellowship that could support your creative work and research. These are competitive applications. And RISD Careers, our career center, offers portfolio reviews, networking, events, guidance on grants, residencies, and more. It's a tremendous resource. Um, for winter session teaching, this is a question that comes up quite a bit. So this is only available for the second year of the program when D+M grad students can apply to teach a winter session course. It's important to note that this is a competitive application, so it's not guaranteed. Courses taught can either be from existing syllabi or self-designed. And those that are especially interested in building their teaching portfolio while studying at RISD are highly encouraged to take a course sequence that's offered through our Teaching and Learning and Art and Design department, which allows you to earn a certificate, which is great to have on one's CV. I will note also that winter session is required for graduate students, and some do elect to take independent study projects during this time, which can be helpful, especially in that thesis year when you really want to kind of focus on getting ready for the spring semester. In terms of graduate assistantships, accepted applicants may be awarded a graduate assistantship. This is like a job with a set funding amount. And these are basically in 4 categories. There's teaching assistants to assist a faculty member in preparing a course, research assistants to assist with whatever kind of department research projects we have going on. That wave field synthesis project that I mentioned earlier, that custom speaker array is a good example of that. We had a few graduate students working on that over the past couple of years, helping out, doing a lot of soldering and helping out with some digital fabrication for that. Technical assistance just to help with the day-to-day facilities and equipment in the department. And then program assistance, and that could be things like supporting visiting artists, exhibitions, our departmental communications, and so on. So applying to the program, so I'm sure many of you have questions about this. Um, Basically, check out the about admissions page. I'll just give a kind of brief overview here. So there's an application form that you have to fill out. We'll need your academic transcripts. There's a written supplement. It's a 500-word limit that we ask you to submit 3 letters of recommendation. There's tests for English as a second language applicants, but there's no GRE requirement. And then we ask you to submit your CV, your resume. The portfolio is, a key part of your application. So we're asking for 10 work samples. Though SlideRoom, the portal that you'll be uploading things to, allows up to 20 files, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then the state of purpose should be about 500 to 750 words. So on your portfolio, We ask that this contain a maximum of 10 samples, and that could be a combination of media. So slide rule will allow pretty much anything you kind of want to upload to it, images, video, sound files, and so on. You may submit up to 5 videos as project documentation or excerpts of time-based media. In your portfolio, you're encouraged to submit at least one video that clearly demonstrates your research or work process. So we kind of like to see a little bit of the behind the scenes, like how you make things, not just the finished work, but we're really interested in your process. Um, we ask that the total runtime for all videos should be no more than 5 minutes. So it's kind of an important thing to note. We do get a lot of applications. So the committee that's looking at these, you wanna really kind of curate your portfolio with this in mind, that there's a committee that's looking through a lot of applications. And so rather than let's say you made a film that's like a 30-minute film, right? Giving us the entire 30-minute film might not represent the work so well because we don't have time on the first pass to actually watch a 30-minute film. So it's best to create an excerpt of that film. What some that applicants will do is they'll put together what some people call like a demo reel. Well, they're kind of like make excerpts from different time-based projects. So the committee might just have to click play once, and then they can watch like a 5-minute video that features multiple works. So just think about that in your application. How do you make this kind of really accessible for a group of people that um, have a limited amount of time to go through the time-based work? Um, yeah, and that limit also ensures that everybody that applies gets like equal consideration, right? So it's really important to curate. So I mentioned that slide room, I believe it will still allow you to submit up to 20 files. However, we ask you limit your submission to 10 work samples. So you can use those additional slots. So it's not like you can't just use 10 slots, you'll have more slots. What you could use those additional slots for is to upload like additional documentation for a project. So let's say you have a project that could be represented by 3 slides, right? That would be a chance to use those extra slots. It could be like a detail shot, might be some photography, then the next slide is a video, something like that. We do ask that you do not submit multi-page PDF files. Um, Multi-page PDF files are very difficult to navigate and could contain a lot of information. And they're really not so, well, it seems like you're giving more information. They actually might do you a disservice because um, sometimes those multi-page PDFs don't render well through the portal that we're looking at. Um, and so really kind of having just one slide per each upload is going to represent your work much better than trying to fit a lot of things into like a slide through like some kind of like giant image or multi-page PDF because the resolution might not carry through. So I've definitely seen examples where students have submitted multi-page PDFs and the text just didn't render, and so we couldn't read anything that was even in the PDF. So better to have an image in the upload, and then use the slide room portal. It has a place where you can copy in a description of the work. That's going to ensure that your work is represented better. And so on that note, each sample should be accompanied by text identifying the medium and year, as well as a 4-sentence description, usually explaining the concepts that inform the work. If you include collaborative projects, I'll just say that you should clearly identify what your individual contribution was on that project, because we want to know like what your part was in that work. You might have been part of a team working on an installation or a film. So we want to know what your role is in that collaborative work if you're showing something like that. Within the statement of purpose, we want to see a clear explanation of your goals for both your time in school and afterwards, how you think the MFA and Digital+Media is really suited to support your aims. The statement should address like what are you interested in exploring conceptually while in school? What outcomes do you hope to get from the degree, and where do you see yourself after graduation? Um, in addition to the statement of purpose, outlining your working methodology and your practice from initial research project realization is a really good thing to include. Okay, so I know that's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but I think we have at least 10, 15 minutes or so that we can try to address questions that came up. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, and we can kind of go from there.
Thank you so much, Sean and Stephen. That was so wonderful. That was really excellent. And we do have a question. Again, anyone who else who has questions, please feel free to enter them. Someone said, I want to do work that is interactive kinetic sculpture. How would one work in or with other departments like sculpture or glass? Or how would someone from one of those other departments work with D+M?
That's a great question. So I think I mean, one way to answer the question is like we have a lot of resources in the Digital Plus Media department for that type of work. And so I think the first suggestion I have is as an applicant, is to look at the resources that we have and to see yourself using those resources rather than like looking over to the sculpture department and imagining that you can go and use like their foundry or something like that. Okay. It's not that it couldn't happen, right? But it's not something that we can guarantee, right? That we can't guarantee that you're going to be able to get into a sculpture course and take classes that allow you to do metal in the foundry or take an industrial design course that allows you to use their wood shop, right? We have a wood shop that, we showed in our presentation. That would be the first wood shop we would send you to, for instance, right? So I think that's my recommendation. But that said, we do have electives that we ask you to get out of the department, and so it's many digital media students do take classes in sculpture, in furniture, in industrial design, in jewelry, and all of the areas that really have at RISD. We have examples of RISD students that have been able to connect to those departments. Um, the electives we also offer in digital media are highly attractive to students in other departments as well. And so we really see these electives as the space where there's a lot of graduate student crossover. So any digital media elective that we have, there might be 15 spots in that course. Maybe actually only, 3 or 4 digital plus media students. The rest are coming from all different departments. So in that way, students meet one another. They start figuring out how to like barter and trade and help each other out. And so, I mean, a great example actually from the presentation is you saw some work that involved glass from Tess Oldfield. And so Tess figured out a way in which she could work with other students and able to uh, get glass things made in the hot shop, but she did herself, didn't have access to the hot shop by default for her work, right? So there's just sort of some like networking that kind of happens, And then also another way is through establishing relationships with faculty in other departments. One might do an independent study with those faculty, and that might be a way forward. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Yeah.
The next question I have is 2 questions. I might split them up to make sure that we're addressing
Mhm.
some other ones, but what opportunities or support for engagement with local communities are there? And they're also wondering, and within that, does the department have any existing relationships with, like, for example, any local climate justice communities, things like that? Basically,
Mm.
I think overall, just local community engagement, I think, as well.
Yeah, so I'd say RISD itself has, as a school, that has um, relationships with community organizations. I think I would answer it for our department by suggesting that people look at 2 of our faculty members and their work. And so that's Adela Goldbard and Mariella Yeregi. And they are both highly active in doing social practice type of work that involves working with communities in a variety of ways. That could be through workshops with those communities, but that could also be engaging communities to create participatory artworks. So I think if you look at their practices, you'll see ways in which that's happening from the faculty, and then help students kind of make those connections as well. I know Mariella currently is working with groups in South Providence on projects. And Adela was actually just part of a public art biennial in Boston, which involved a big public display and involved the community in kind of helping to build a sculpture. So yeah, I think it's kind of it's embedded in the practice of some of our faculty, and therefore they can help make those connections in the city. Maybe I'll also just mention that there are some really fantastic community organizations that students get involved with that. Um, like AS220 is a local arts organization, the Steelyard. Um, I mean, there's a number of music venues in town. So I think there's ways in which students just start to make connects by virtue of the fact that like Providence is not a big city. You know, it's more like a town kind of vibe or feeling. Um, you know, and in Providence, it's sort of you probably have heard of this idea of like 6 degrees of separation. In Providence, everybody's like kind of like 1 degree of separation. So it's like if you don't know a person on the street, you probably know somebody that knows them, right? So so like you know, there's just these things that that kind of proximity in the city is good for these kind of social encounters and figuring out kind of community based practices.
Excellent. I do want to jump into there about questions about the portfolio. They're kind of frequently asked questions we get in general, but one question was they don't, if someone doesn't have 10 different works that they would be confident in putting in their portfolio, would it be all right to submit fewer works, but maybe include more detail? How would you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 10 is really the maximum. We don't really say there's a minimum number of works, right? But we would like you to try to use at least 10 of the upload slots that are available, right, in the portal. And certainly you could have like 4 or 5 maybe works that you feel are really strong works that represent the work you want to continue doing in grad school. And then, you know, have use the additional upload slots to provide more detail about that work. Um, I will say, you know, I've had some questions where, um, like students had particular work that they felt represented, let's say like the art and technology or new media art or um, social practice kind of work they want to engage in. And then they have like some graphic design that they've done, and they have some photography that they've done, or they've had some drawings they've done, and they don't feel like those works are as connected to like what it is they want to do. And I would actually suggest to maybe, you know, curate some of those things out, right? So if you are doing if you're imagining yourself that you're starting to do kinetic sculpture and you want to get into more robotic installation and you have sculptural work that kind of points in that direction, maybe you haven't done robotics yet, but like the sculptural work might represent that. It gives us a sense of like where you think you're headed. But then let's say then you have this kind of graphic design practice that you've done, but that's not something you want to continue doing, right? Like, don't include the thing you don't want to continue doing, I would say. Because if you include the graphic design work, we might interpret that as a review committee as like, oh, this person's really interested in typography, right? And then we might have the wrong impression based on the work that you submitted. So I would say very much it's important to curate so that the work gives us an idea of like what the potential is, right? You don't have to already be doing the thing that you imagine you want to do. It's more about showing what you've done so far that is giving you the idea that you want to do those things.
That's so great. That's a really, really wonderful advice. Another question about the portfolio is, do you need a lot of prior experience with technology in your portfolio? And this kind of also branching out, we get a lot of questions about if you don't have former experience in the field that you're interested in, first of all, it's okay, but what advice would you give to those applicants?
So don't let that stop you from applying, right? If you feel like you don't have technical chops or something like that. Um, that's not what we're looking for. We're not necessarily looking for you to be already like an expert programmer or electronics prototyper or what have you. Those are things that you can learn in school, right? And so um, this is like, I guess my another piece of advice is that like we're we're looking for people that actually can like are able to kind of explain like that there's things they want to do as a student, right? So if you already knew all this stuff about programming and electronics, and then that's when you want to kind of continue doing, we might have the question of like, well, what does this person want to get out of school, right? So what do they want to learn? Um, so just because one doesn't know how to do something now is not a reason not to apply by any means. And I think that's one of, I would say one of the strengths of the program is this multidisciplinary kind of approach. So we do admit people from all different backgrounds. We've had an astrophysicist in the program. We've had biologists in the program. We have mathematicians in the program. So we have people that are coming from humanities and science areas that actually like doing art is sort of a new direction for them, right? So that's gives you kind of the range. But then we also have people that are coming, let's say, from more like architecture or design backgrounds that are looking more of like to kind of apply that kind of background to a fine arts kind of approach. And then we certainly have people that have, have been in the arts for years, but they're kind of looking for a more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary context to continue that work. And they want to be in dialogue with people that are coming from other disciplines.
Excellent. Let's see. This is an interesting question, and I think it's really at the core of it. It speaks to the community of D+M, but just, and if both of you want to speak about it from your perspective as program leaders and teachers, yeah, they're just kind of, I guess really what this question gets down to is asking about the community aspect. I would say they're asking about, decision making and forming the program. But, if you could also maybe discuss, like, I think one of the most amazing things about RISD is the community all across the board and also within the program. So I'm maybe speaking about that aspect of it.
Stephen, do you want to try that one?
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, sure.
But I think like from my point of view, right, from my how I work with the students is a lot of times what they're trying to do is make something or learn something or use a new piece of technology. And I think what we've done quite nicely here is to try to make everything kind of accessible. Like there is an entry point, there's a place you can take and kind of move with it. And then there's resources and people, whether those are like peers, right, that can also help you. And in my workshops that we run, there's a lot of opportunity for open discussion and like sharing, experiences and ideas or solutions on technical issues or on suggestions on types of equipment or software to use. So there's lots of room and space for dialogue and discussion, and I feel like it's a fairly it's very open, right? There's not, we try to make it not intimidating at all and very accessible to everyone. How was that?
Excellent. That was wonderful. Thank you. I wanted to make sure, but in our last couple of minutes, just touch on subjects we haven't really talked about. You did mention that, cross-registration in terms of RISD and Brown, but someone was asking if there are opportunities to collaborate with researchers at Brown and.
Hmm. Um, I'd say most of the Brown RISD connection for our department is like for taking courses, right? So of course there could be researchers that are teaching courses, um, but my first thought was like researcher as like if somebody wanted to be like a lab assistant or something like that. That's probably not something that we can easily support because we're not set up in a way where like for instance, Brown can hire our graduate students to work in a lab, just and we can't hire them to work like like jobs at RISD, something like that, easily at least. So most of those encounters are going to be through coursework. Um, uh, that said, I think that there are, because of the proximity of our campuses, like really the Brown campus and the RISD campus overlap. And Brown even sort of surrounds us, I guess now, sort of at this point because of the expansion of the medical school. It's very likely that you will meet students from Brown, even if you don't take classes at Brown, or that you will take advantage of what Brown offers for lectures, talks, different kind of programming that happens there, and Brown students will come down to RISD as well. So in RISD courses, in digital media courses, it's typical that there'll be a Brown student in that course. So that might kind of lead you to some new collaborations or connections. One thing I'll just mention is Brown has a relatively new performing arts center, which is really exciting. So there's what's called the Brown Arts Institute. And the Brown Arts Institute is sort of like an interdepartmental structure that brings the different arts departments like theater, dance, music, visual arts, and so forth at Brown kind of together, sort of like a hub. And they have two actually buildings. They have the Granoff Center and the Lindemann Performing Arts Center right next to each other. Um, these two centers are places where courses take place, but also a lot of great art programming kind of comes through. So yeah.
Excellent. We have one more minute, and I definitely want to be mindful of everyone's time, but I also don't want to disregard this question we got a bit ago, which is if you could speak to resources available for learning light art. I guess the use of light.
Ah,
That
right. Yes.
dabbling, not just like dabbling in art, but like.
Well, that's a good question. So, I mean, well, Stephen, can you talk about maybe some of the equipment we've acquired that might help in that direction?
Um,
Something.
yeah, I mean, we've had like if we're talking like using electronics and building maybe building like big sort of light installations. We have facilities here that can help with the sort of the making of those kind of systems. We also have things to do with like DMX controllable lights, things like that are kind of more used in like stage lighting. If you're talking about like neon lights, that part I don't know. I don't think we do them. I don't think it's even done over in the glass department, but I could be wrong.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I again want to be mindful of everybody's time. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much, Stephen. Really appreciate it. This has been so incredible and informative. And Sean, you had mentioned, this might be available for people to see. Yes, we've been recording. We will post this on our RISD YouTube channel. I also put Sean's, you had your email address as you had at the end of the presentation and RISD's admissions email address. But if you have any questions that you have, again, that you wanted further explanation on, please feel free to reach out to us. And if you didn't get your questions answered, please feel free to reach out. And thank you all so very much. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and thanks, Marion, for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all. Have a great one.
Goodbye.
Okay.